Poland became home to approximately 1 million additional refugees from the Ukraine war. By the year's end, nearly 60% of them have found jobs. In Warsaw alone, schools and nurseries have taken 18,000 kids, and Warsaw's mayor is appealing for European financial support. Russians advanced up to Kiev, Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, from the Donbas area to Donetsk, Mariupol.
We now come to the statement.
European Union, UK, US kept slapping sanctions after sanctions on Russia. Over the next more than 300 days, US alone has provided Ukraine with more than $18.6 billion in security assistance and $13 billion in direct economic assistance. Other countries from Europe and Asia too have stood firmly by Ukraine with economic assistance. Individual soldiers from different parts of the world arrived in Ukraine to fight for it and push the Russians away. Russia brought in Chechen mercenaries, and along with it came the nuclear threat from Moscow. Russian forces seized control of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant in early March after setting an adjacent training facility on fire. NATO rejected Ukraine's appeal for no-fly zones.
The only way to actually implement something like a no-fly zone is to send NATO planes into Ukrainian airspace and to shoot down Russian planes, and that could lead to a full-fledged war. In Europe, President Biden has been clear that we are not going to get into a war with Russia.
In Russia, police detained more than 4,300 people at countrywide protests against President Putin's invasion of Ukraine. But the rest of Russia remained quiet as it bombed a children's hospital in the besieged port of Mariupol during a supposed ceasefire to enable some of the hundreds of thousands of civilians trapped in the city to escape. More and more people started to leave cities and villages that were their home. The United Nations estimated that 90% of Mariupol's buildings were destroyed after Russia used tanks, artillery and airstrikes to try to dislodge its defenders. A top official from the world body said in June that at least 1,348 civilians had been killed, including 70 children, and that the final toll was probably thousands higher. Kiev estimated that 22,000 civilians were killed in Mariupol in those airstrikes by Russia. But shelling intensified as Russia moved closer to Kiev. Ukrainian president sent out an urgent cry for help.
As the leader of my nation, I am addressing the President Biden. You are the leader of the nation, of your great nation. I wish you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means to be the leader of peace.
And he responded.
Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refused to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principle, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Desperate Russia intensified its attack, and the massacre of Bucha came to light as March turned to April. Tied bodies shot at close range, a mass grave, and other signs of executions were found from the town of Bucha in the Kiev region after it was retaken from Russian troops.
These are war crimes and they will be recognized by the world as genocide. Male resident, and what am I supposed to do? How do you think? Hang myself or what?
Moscow denied all accusations related to the killings of civilians in Bucha. Pope Francis condemned the massacre of Bucha and held a Ukrainian flag sent from the town. But that wasn't enough to stop Vladimir Putin. Missiles kept striking. Sometimes the target was a train station, killing more than 50 people. At other times, neighborhoods killing hundreds. Ukraine blamed Russia and they kept denying. And then the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, Moskva, sank. Moscow said the ship sank while being towed in stormy seas after a fire caused by an ammunition explosion. Ukraine said one of its missiles had caused the Moskva to sink. By mid-April, the Battle of Donbas became the central focal point. After 2 months of continuous attack, the port city of Mariupol turned into a wasteland.
You wake up in the morning and you cry. You cry in the evening. I don't know where to go at all. I'm not alone. Imagine, everything is destroyed. Everything is broken. Where should the people go now? Here they're sitting with small kids, with little ones.
President Vladimir Putin exhorted Russians to battle in a defiant Victory Day speech. But by mid-May, Russia's siege of the Ukrainian city of Mariupol stuttered. On 23rd May, a Ukrainian court sentenced a Russian soldier to life in prison for killing an unarmed civilian in the first war crimes trial arising from Russia's invasion. Ukraine and Russia were locked in a war of gaining ground as tanks from both sides kept marching across the country.
And what am I supposed to do? What do you think? Hang myself or what? If we have to go through it, we will.
Таково, значит, как надо. Надо пройти это, значит, мы пройдем.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky won backing from the leaders of France, Germany, Italy and Romania to give Ukraine European Union candidate status on 16 June. Within weeks of this, Finland and Sweden gained access to NATO. It became the most significant expansion of the alliance since the 1990s. The Russian invasion of Ukraine started to change the geopolitics of the world order forever.